All right, so the rumor leaker mill people are back once again, and they are trying to basically kind of do damage control in essence. Really, I mean that's more or less what it is. This comes in the wake of like a bunch of different little news articles coming out of like Last of Us multiplayer title gets scaled down. Naughty Dog says project needs more time and announces development of a new single player project. Sony has scaled back the development of Last of Us multiplayer project, as reported by Bloomberg, which it's like Bloomberg is really one of those sources that they kind of grab all the rumor mill stuff and they just spread it like wildfire onto social media. So sources familiar with the matter said that the decision comes as the studio's title was reevaluated in terms of quality and visibility. The evaluation led by Sony and subsidiary Bungie questioned the Naughty Dog title's long-time engagement with users. Following the assessment, staff worked on the online game were reduced to a now small team, and other developers were reassigned to different roles. Naughty Dog released a statement on Twitter. We know many of you have been looking forward to hearing. So let's go to the statement and read it. So The Last of Us, let's see here. Last of Us fans, we know many of you have been looking forward to hearing more about our Last of Us multiplayer game. We are incredibly proud of the job our studio has done thus far, but as development has continued, we realize what is best for the game is to give it more time. Our team will continue to work on the project as well as our other games and developments, including a brand new single player experience. We look forward to sharing more soon. We are grateful to our fantastic community for your support. Thank you for your passion on our games, and it continues to drive us. So, the new game in question or in talks right there, I think is pretty obvious because we've already heard. I'd be interested to see new science fiction or fantasy IP built in the same standard as Last of Us. See again, like Rhino, the whatever the hell, the bouncer over here, another big rumor leaker mill person that thinks they have all the they act like they have all the insider information. The thing of it is though, is okay, Rhino can sit there and say it's a science fiction or fantasy IP built in the same standard. We've actually already heard that The Last of Us Part 3 is being worked on and written on. It's in writing form, okay? So our team will continue to work on the project as well as other games in development. So the writing concept phase for Last of Us Part 3 has been well underway for 4 to 6 months now, I think it was. It was a while ago when we heard about Neil saying that he is in the process of writing The Last of Us 3. He was just trying to finish up other projects before he jumped, because he wants the whole studio to be jumping fully into The Last of Us Part 3. They don't want to screw up the third and final chapter of Ellie's storyline, I guess you would say. So he's like trying to figure out where to go with the story, how to write it, all that stuff. There was a bunch of rumors that like there's gonna be another Last of Us, another Uncharted game in the works, and I'm just like, no, Uncharted is done. I don't think they're going back to that. But yeah, we've heard literally from Neil Druckmann himself that The Last of Us Part 3, he is working on the first drafts of it, which that's the thing with when it comes to gaming. You have your first draft, and then you'll go through a couple more drafts to make sure, with design teams, concept arts, all that stuff to see like, okay, how much work will this be? How much time would this take to make? And then they got to go to Sony and ask for funding and all that stuff. So if they're in the concept phasing part of this, then yes, they are working on the next single player experience, being The Last of Us Part 3. That's just a kind of a no-brainer at this point. So this is, again, it's just like one of those things where you just have all these rumor mill artists, they drop all these things on social media, and then all these like PlayStation Lifestyle. I've been seeing this for a while, and I haven't really wanted to talk too much on all this stuff. Insiders puzzled by Sony withholding announcements from Showcase. Inside Gaming's Tom Henderson claims to have seen trailers and stuff. And then it brings you over to Reset Era. A forum that just posts up all like everything that everybody would want to hear just to get likes and clicks and stuff. Big surprise to him. It's not understood that a lot of games were weighing on seeing pretty much. I just had a stroke there. It's It's understood that a lot of games we're waiting on seeing are pretty much ready, so I'm not sure why Sony decided to wait this time around. That's just he doesn't know. Like, they don't know, not for sure. The other one that made me actually laugh a little bit too was games missing from PlayStation Showcase. Last was Factions, not ready to be shown yet. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. There's Summer Games Fest happening. Death Stranding 2. Again, like, you're talking about two games right here easily that Jeff Keighley would have on his showcase, not a PlayStation showcase, but would be on a Summer Games Fest showcase. Maybe Final Fantasy would be on the showcase. I am actually kind of surprised, but then again, no, because FF16 had that spot. So what you'll end up seeing is a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth showcase itself from PlayStation. That makes more sense. Death Stranding 2, though, Kojima and Jeff Keighley are best buds. Of course that's going to show up at Summer Games Fest or the Game Awards. Depends on how much Kojima has ready to show. That's another big problem with all these lists also. Silent Hill 2, we've already seen it. They already did a full-on thing. Why would it be there? Let's see here. Marvel's Wolverine. So they showed off Spider-Man. Marvel's not going to have two games underneath one umbrella when they can bring in Marvel into the next show also. Pay Jeff Keighley a bunch of money to have Wolverine, maybe a gameplay trailer, possibly, because that's what Jeff Keighley's all about. Also, he pushes for gameplay trailers over CGI trailers. Bend Studios' new IP. Well, oh boy. So the Bend Studio new IP, we have no idea what the hell they're actually going to be working on. Most everybody's trying to go off from like Jeff Ross, but at this point, Jeff Ross, I mean, I get a little bummed out from these PlayStation Showcase shows because they only remind me of how we could have had Days Gone 2 out a month ago if we had just stuck to our guns. Why can't you still try for it? Too much time has passed and over 90 people from the original team have left the studio and Sony just doesn't seem to care about it anymore. No, you know why? Because the two heads of the studio that made the first game happen, they left. Like Jeff Ross really doesn't even, is he part of Bend Studios? Game director, Days Gone, designer on a bunch of Siphon Filter. I don't even think he's part of Bend Studios anymore. Maybe he is. It's just like every time Jeff starts talking more and more, he seemed really cool during the launch of Days Gone, but the more and more he talks, the more and more he just whines about Sony and how he got screwed over by Sony and everything. Maybe the concept for Days Gone 2 just wasn't that good. Maybe they were trying to do an always online thing that and nobody really wants right now. You ever think about that? Maybe it was something to push microtransactions and it was going to be like an always online experience. That's what Jeff was pushing for. And Sony was like, no, we're not doing that. We don't want to do that right now, because it seemed like they were almost setting up for like a base campment, and then Deacon and everyone else that survives to the first game would end up building up the encampment and starting up another MC and going on missions and all that stuff. It seemed like they were trying to maybe set up for like something of a co-op adventure, which I would be totally for. A co-op adventure sounds really cool, but you have to do it a certain way where it's a single player story driven kind of focused game first and then add the co-op in afterwards, where it's like you can do this whole thing single player, no problem at all. You can have your buddies jump in if they want to, and that's the way that they should be going with Days Gone. At this point, it seems like they're just going with something brand new, a whole totally separate brand new IP. Which is what this is alluding to, but at the same time, who knows where that is, development wise. Let's see here. Stellar Blade, Sony Manica Studios new IP. We have no idea what the hell they're working on right now. In all honesty, I think it's about 3 or 4 different. Yes, actually it is. We know that they are working on 3 or 4 different projects because we've already heard it from the heads of the different studios working on those projects at Sony Santa Monica. Let's see here. Sucker Punch's next game, Ghost of Tsushima 2. Yeah, we think that's what it's going to be. Again, so a lot of that stuff, and then lots of shakeups with PlayStation Studios and XDev recently. Pixel Opus shut down. Last of Us multiplayer delayed and scaled back. Deviation Games title reportedly canceled. Dreams support ending. And Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic status unknown. So, in all honesty, all this right here, I take it with a grain of sand, but if any of it is true, and again, I take anything from these accounts with a grain of sand. Sometimes they become true. Sometimes they, it's like right before the announcement's going to go out, they get a little whiff of something, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, now I'm going to post this up first, just to get everybody's attention on it." But if Sony is scaling back or shutting down, there is a thing called a bad idea. Sometimes developers, they try and do something that is just not going to work. Like they come up with this big vision for what they want the game to be, and then it comes up to the higher ups at Sony to be like, I don't know, that doesn't seem like it works too well right now with fans, so maybe we don't want to be doing that right now. Would you rather have a shitty game come out after they've poured all that time, resources, and money, and you got your hypes and hopes up for something really cool, and it turns out to be not so great? Or would you rather Sony maybe shut that down and then reallocate into making something even better? That's the reality of game development. It's going to take you 3 years. I mean, if they keep going with development on all this stuff and it's not great, the next time you get another game, we're going to be on the PlayStation 6. Do you really want to take that chance of it being bad and giving Sony a bad name, where it's either that or they can just, scale it back and be like, okay, this doesn't seem like it's working as well. There is a reason why Sony is going to be doing that stuff. Sometimes devs, they're just so like, this is such a cool idea. Maybe it's not going to work. Maybe it would. Maybe Sony's in the wrong. Maybe the developers in the wrong. The thing is, we don't really know from an outsider's point of view. The only ones that know is the ones that are working on the project. That's the only ones that are like super in tune with what is actually happening. You know why we won't hear from people working on projects like that? There's a thing called an NDA. You won't actually have any information, or like even the rumor mill ones or the leakers or any of that stuff. The problem with all these Twitter accounts and everything, and all these like inside gaming stuffs and everything, if there is information that gets leaked and they can figure out the source of that leak and bring it back down, like Rockstar, I bet you any amount of money is probably suing the shit out of some people. The reason being because there was leaks that happened for Grand Theft Auto. We know this. We've seen the leaks. So Rockstar's lawyers, Take-Two's lawyers, more or less, that game is going to probably be like $1 billion, in revenue that they're going to make off from that. It's going to be ridiculous how much money they're going to make off from that. Anyone, like The Last of Us also makes tens of millions of dollars. You're not going to want that stuff leaked to anyone. If it does, you bring it back to that source. You can sue the living hell out of somebody. You can make their life a pretty bad situation. So that's why I'm always like grain of sand when it comes to all this rumors and leaks stuff. When it comes to like this whole list of like games missing from the PlayStation Showcase, what I would say is there's a correction to be made to this. They were never scheduled to be at the PlayStation Showcase. It's just a list that, everybody's making up of games that they would like to see there. And now they're trying to go for their little likes and their little view count to try and get, as much, attention on their channels or profiles, whatever. Welcome to the age of social media and how all this stuff, works nowadays. All right, so let's also talk about the whole thing, because there are a lot of these games talking about PlayStation exclusives and such, but Phantom Blade, Black Myth, Wukong, Lost Soul aside, Stellar Blade are all made by Chinese or Korean Stellar Blade studios without experience making AAA games. They are so good, too good to be true. I hope they turn out amazing as they are looking. So when it comes to all these, I think the hype, for some reason, these games are getting so much freaking hype. Like Stellar Blade looked probably the best out of all of these. But a lot of these games, especially Black Myth and what was the name of this game again? Phantom Blade and Black Myth Wukong. Okay, so those two specifically, they have stiff animations the same way that I was just looking at the AEW Fight Forever game. They all have like these really, really stiff animations going on with them, and as much as people want to look and see like, ooh, it's shiny, it looks all great and everything, you got to remember, you got to have in the back of your brain that these are not AAA games. These are AA at best because they are smaller indie studios. So technically, they are actually indie games with like a AA look to them. But the feel of the game itself, they're being made on Unreal Engine for the most part, which means that Unreal Engine is picking up a lot of the heavy lifting for them to make the game look as good as it does. So all these people are just like, oh my God, like these games look the best that they ever are. You got to remember that when you actually go to sit down and do the meat and potatoes of the gameplay of it, they're probably not going to actually hold up. So all this hype that you're building up and you're attacking people for even questioning, whether or not these games are going to be great or whatever. Again, this is probably the best looking one. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times now over like a span of probably 3-4 years, I think at this point. And again, it's just it's just the Black Myth Wukong fan base, especially like they are so just like they are in attack mode and defense force mode so heavily with these games. And then of course there's also again, I don't want to get into like Chinese politics or anything, but there's also that factor too. That's, a lot of people, even if you mention that stuff, people are just jumping down people's throats over that, over even mentioning the business of, China in gaming and everything, and like Tencent and all that stuff. So again, that's another thing to keep in mind when it comes to all this stuff. So if, PlayStation has these games on their platform to wrap this back over to PlayStation, I don't know. I don't agree with PlayStation really, putting these games on a high marquee as they are. Like the Fanblade one was during a PlayStation showcase. That was a majorly hyped event and everything. I think if anything, those games that are made by Chinese indie developers are going to hurt the brand more than anything in the long run, because everybody's going to get so hyped up for these games, and then when they go to play them, when they get hands-on with them, you can just see it in the animation where the animation looks a little stiff. It's going to play. It's almost like you're going from a FromSoft title over to something like as much as I like Thymesia, it feels like a lower budget project. Also Steel Rising, as much as I like that game, it feels like a lower budget Souls game. And that's one of those things where it makes some people go, I don't know, like, why is there so much hype around this? Again, that's what Sony's really got to be careful of right now with these Chinese developers, is that, maybe in the next 5-6 years they might start getting up to AAA, quality, but these first 4 games that we're seeing are kind of overhyped. That's my biggest thing that I need, or that I really want to push out to Sony, is this, like, be careful what you're showcasing here, because people are they're looking at the shininess of it and they're not paying attention to the actual gameplay, which that happens a ton in gaming. But yes, I think that will wrap up this video. So yeah, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Bells, whistles is a whole notification thing. And yeah, I guess with that being said, we're just waiting for Summer Games Fest to see whatever else comes up next. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. And as always, I will see you next time.